Welcome to Module 2, Grab Their Attention. You've built your foundation, and now it's time to craft a hook that'll make agents say, I need to read this now. We're starting with the most important sentence that you'll probably ever write about your book, and that is your log line. Don't worry, I have a formula to help you. A log line comes from screenwriting, and it's the one sentence that sells your entire story. The Lion King could be pitched as a young lion prince flees his kingdom only to learn the true meaning of responsibility and bravery. A computer hacker discovers reality is an illusion and must choose between comfortable lies and dangerous truth is a single sentence to describe the Matrix. Now, your logline is going to be the anchor point to your query letter, your book description, and your elevator pitch if you are verbally pitching at conferences. So we need to get this right. Here's the basic formula. Character must do something or face consequences. If we break it down further, we get a protagonist with a key trait must do something to achieve goal or overcome obstacle or face consequence. An example, if I were to do heirs abundancy from Evan's point of view, would be a mourning princess must put aside her desire for revenge to stop a war or watch her true enemy become immortal. We have character, goal, and stakes. If I did it from Calay's point of view, it would be something more along the lines of this. An isolated princess must abandon her misconceptions of the world and use her unique powers to stop an unjust war before it's too late. You could also do when inciting incident happens, character, goal before deadline and consequences. We're going to stick with Calay's point of view for this example. When a stranger comes to kill her as revenge for her parents' murder, Princess Calais must convince this woman to work with her so they can stop her father's war. There's also after life change, character discovers conflict and must choose between option A and option B. If we go back to Evan's point of view, we could say, after her parents are brutally murdered, Evan discovers their murderer's daughter can resurrect the dead and must decide between revenge or saving her kingdom. We want to have specific characters. A woman is too generic, but for The Storm Gathers, I could say that Nur is an outcast witch. So I would use the phrase an outcast witch. And for Thanks for Watching, I could say that Michelle is, quote, a declining online influencer, end quote. The character description needs to hint at the internal conflict or what makes the story theirs to tell. And then we need to have the conflict be active. You don't want to say something generic like has to prove herself or faces challenges. Now we have an outcast witch must defy expectations of her, which is much more exciting. And we have a declining online influencer must survive a fraught brand trip long enough to uncover a murderer. We're using strong verbs here. And then we add in the state. If we say she'll never amount to anything or she'll die, those are both pretty flat. They do tell us something, but not enough to make someone interested in knowing more about the story. So we have an outcast witch must defy expectations of her or live in the shadow of her father's memory forever. And we also have a declining online influencer must survive a fraught brand trip long enough to uncover a murderer, or her social media presence won't be the only thing to die. Stakes need to be specific and proportional to your genre. So it's okay if your romance doesn't have life or death stakes, but if your thriller doesn't, then you have a problem. In all of those examples, notice genre and tone are made clear through the stakes and the way the logline is written. We get a picture of the character and a clear idea of the conflict that makes us want to know what happens next. Here are some mistakes, and we're going to use Until the Last Page as an example. You don't want to say a woman must overcome obstacles to find happiness, but you could say a heartbroken woman must help a frog prince find true love in order to escape a book of fairy tales. You also don't want to do too much plot. What I'm about to say to describe A Diamond Bright and Broken is accurate, but you'll understand why it's not a good idea. After years of being abused by her parents for her magical ability, a girl decides to escape her home with a mysterious stranger and take a fantastical journey. It's a little bit long-winded, and you don't want to lose people's interest, especially when you have such a short amount of time to grab and keep their interest. So, That's a girl gifted with the ability to cry tears leaves home to find answers before her beloved sister dies from health complications. It's much snappier, and it also makes the stakes clearer because the reason she leaves home is to help her sister, not just help herself. Then we have the mistake of not making the stakes clear. So if we say a tween girl starts at a new school, we have a fact, but nothing interesting. But if we say a tween girl must solve the mystery of a missing student at her new school or meet the same fate, we are much more intrigued and more likely to read from the Diary of Agnes Yeager, The Secrets of Silverleaf Academy. This last one is passive character. If you have a passive character in your logline, people are going to assume you have a passive character in your book, and those aren't interesting to read. And I'm going to write a bad version for my self-published book, Obscure Origin, and then show you a better way to do it. A young woman's life changes when she is abducted by aliens. Flat, and also she's not the one doing the action. However, if I said, a girl must escape her alien captors before she's turned into an experiment, we have suddenly put her in the driver's seat despite her being the abductee in an intergalactic situation. So I want you to write down your protagonist and their key trait or flaw on your worksheet. Then you're going to identify the main conflict or goal that they have and determine what happens if they fail. Then you're going to combine those three things into one of the formulas that we have covered in this video. And I want you to test out different versions. Don't expect perfection on the first try. You might have at least 10 before you find one that you like, because that's what normally happens with me. And before our next lesson, I want you to test those on your friends and then post their top 2 favorite versions in the community for feedback before reading other people's log lines and responding to them. Remember, this is the hardest part, but if you can nail your log line, everything else will get easier. Next up, we're going to be talking about book descriptions, and we'll be expanding your log line in order to do it. You're building your book sales package, keep going.